No man that rise against us, that war they shall never win. Cause I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer, rise up and conquer them. Thank you, Father. I want to say thank you, Lord. You're everything, Father. Thank you. Father, you alone shall guide me. No man shall lead my path. In the wind I hear your quiet whispers, and you heal my broken heart. Even some of my friends turn enemies, and they pray for right to feel. And remember you gave us your only begotten son, but we gave him the wound of love. Send down your warriors with the hello. They carry down to the end of days. No matter how the devil try trick me, unto you my soul I will give. Father, I know this time is coming. I can see the high tide raise. Without you there is no other. Could it be that we decide? No weapon that form against us shall not prevail. No man that rise against us, that war they shall never win. Because I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer, rise up and conquer them. I am a man, I am a champion, I am a warrior. So who are you to tell me that I cannot make? Who are you to tell me that I am not the greatest thing that God ever created?
Good morning, Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique. You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada. A very special good morning to those of you joining us on 97.5 CitysoundFM, 89.5 CRFM, and 91.9 and 91.5 RealFM Radio, and 92.9 Sister Radio broadcasting from Hillsborough, Carriacou. Of course, a very special good morning to those of you joining us on the live video stream, whether it's on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, wherever you may be. Good morning to you. It is a beautiful, beautiful Monday morning in January of 2021. We have 2 more weeks left in the month of January. Isn't that a wonderful thing? Because January is said to be the longest month of the year. I don't know where we get our data from, but that's what we always say. And of course, in studio with me this morning, I have none other than my co-host, Mr. Roland Jabola. Good morning, Mr. Bola.
Very blessed and wonderful morning to you, Miss Duncan. A lovely good Monday morning to all our listeners out there. If you have already said it's a beautiful Monday morning, and even if you say beauty 10 times, it will remain beautiful. The sun is up. You know, I had a wonderful drive on my way down.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, pretty pleasant. The traffic this morning was not as hectic as it normally is on a morning. I think it's because I was a couple of minutes later, having left home a little later than the regular time. So maybe the really busy traffic was just ahead of me, I would guess. Got here safe. And, thank God my weekend was quiet, very, placid. I have used the opportunity to provide some assistance to 2 friends, one on Saturday, one on Sunday morning, people who are engaged in doing their own little things. In the case of my friend on Sunday, he's in the process of building a house, and, so I went over last week as well as this week helping him dig the pillar holes. And so, we all do a little bit of something when we can, in whatever way we can, trying to ensure that life becomes a little easier and a little better for each other, because we are part of a community, not just a family, but a community and a country. And so that is expected of each and every one of us. So whatever you did for the weekend, whether you just relax, bask in the sunlight, went to the beach, spend time with your family, went to the garden, or did something to assist a friend, all of it is for good reason and good purpose. And I really do hope that your entire weekend was rewarding to you, rejuvenating to your body, and today that you're up, back on the job, ready to go, full of energy, and have that kind of motivation that will start your week well so that your week may end well. Good morning to everyone again, and for those who have not yet joined, I hope that those who are live on Hard Talk are going to shout out their friend, their neighbor, their cousin, let them know, hey, Hard Talk is on. It's time to turn your radio on. It's time to get on that computer, that device, and get on board, because we have really, really good information to share with you today.
We do?
Yeah, we do that every day. Every day. That's what we do.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we do have a lot to talk about this morning. We are going to delve into the Grenada issue, of course, because we know that is the hot topic of the period. I can't say the day. It's definitely the period. And a lot of information has been given. And I would hope that the people who are genuinely concerned about this transition did take the time to listen to the Parliament presentations by each minister. I think it was very illuminating. It did provide a lot of information as it relates to the ins and outs of what this deal was all about, the reason why we are in this position right now, and what this current situation means for us as a people. Because irregardless is not a word. Where are we getting this thing from? Regardless of how we feel about what should have been done, what was done, the fact of the matter is, as it stands right now, what is done has been done. And where we go from here is what is most important. The steps that we take, and very carefully at that, take to now turn this state asset into a profitable asset for the country, into a profitable asset for the people of the country, is what is most important. How we handle Grenada from here going forward. What decisions we make as a government or as a management body for Grenada. These are the things that now we should be more interested in, given that everything else was properly explained, in my opinion, concerning the whole Grenada fiasco. And Mr. Bola, I'm sure you
Is it a fiasco, really?
Well,
I don't know.
It was turned into a fiasco.
Right. Some people are trying to make it into that, but I'd rather you not call it that.
The whole Grenada transition process.
Right. That sounds more like
much better.
Yeah, like what happened. There was a transition.
Absolutely. And I know, Mr. Bowler, that you had an opportunity to listen to the presentations. More information than we initially had was given. What are your thoughts on what was said and the explanations that were given? I was very surprised, though, to listen to the leader of the opposition now with a different tongue and a different tone speak on the Grenada issue, speak on the allocation of the funding that was used for the Grenada issue, as he had very much to say even before he had the facts, or before he had the information. I was very I shouldn't say surprised, I should say pleased to listen to his presentation.
Well, were you surprised or were you pleased?
Pleased. I can't say surprised. Nothing really surprises me anymore.
Okay. Well, first I want to commend and congratulate all of the representatives, inclusive of the opposition leader. Mm-hmm. For me, for the many years I have been following and listening to parliamentary debates, and so I think it's maybe the first time. I don't know if my memories can bring me back to another time. It's not that parliamentary sessions before have not been good, but for me, I think it is the first time that I have heard every single representative expound on an issue, and they were very, very profound in what they said. Mm-hmm. They were all able to link from whatever department, ministry, constituency they were from, were able to link some sort of benefit that can be derived for the section, the department, the constituency, as a result of the transition that is now taking place with Grenada. The fact that government has been able to right a wrong, as we put it, and when you really listen, because sometimes in John Public, there are some people, and they have the good reasons why they do it, Oftentimes, I think it is because they want to derail some of the things that this administration is doing that will be beneficial to people. When you listen to them without taking time off to think, you would get an impression from what they say that every single thing about this whole transition or transaction between government, WRB, repurchasing of the shares is such a bad thing that we need to all just ask the government to step aside. That's the impression you get.
But look how quiet they have all gotten.
Well, they will have to, because the facts will always be the facts.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Now, we accept that it is something gone. It is in history. It's the past. The sale that took place in 1994. And I do not believe that the present administration or those who are now at the helm of leading and pushing our country forward is as concerned about the sale itself as they are concerned about the conditions
of the sale
or in which the sale took place. So first, as they have explained, and I mean, we sometimes repeat because there are some people who miss those things, that the facility or the utility is one that is of a strategic nature. It is one that is in a unique position to assist our country with making economic strides. It has the ability to either assist us in improving our economic growth or being regressed economically. And we do have a caller on already?
We do, and it's a caller we've been expecting, Mr. Bola. And of course, you know, we are all for however we can provide information to the public. We believe that it is best we always seek seek conversation with people who are very versed on these topics. And on the line with me, we have a very special guest. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Ms. Duncan.
How are you?
I am fine. Good morning to you, Senator Bola.
And how are you doing? How was your weekend? And tell me something quickly about the little one.
I was just going to ask him how my son.
I beat you to that.
I know that was the question. Both all of us, but, you know. He's very fine. He's out there right now looking at his cartoon.
Okay.
So you may hear him coming around calling me for something or the other.
Okay. Good.
Well, we thought it was absolutely necessary to engage you to have this discussion because, of course, you would have a lot of information. You've studied this. You have a lot of facts as it relates to this Grenlec issue. We hear a lot of opposition chatter and talk, and we know they would always talk because, as Mr. Bola said, they would never share information that is beneficial to government. They always want to turn things and twist things to their liking. But we know better. We have the facts and we have the information, and so do you. A lot more than I do, and which is why I think it's very important to have you have this discussion, of course, with Mr. Bola as it relates to the Grenlec issue.
So why not you with me, with us?
With us, because I will be learning. I'm just going to be learning, so I just want the people to know, in case you all don't hear me talk about it a lot, I don't make habit of talking about things I don't fully understand, you know? So I leave the conversation to happen between the people who do understand the topic. So give us an idea of what you thought firstly about the actual presentations that happened.
On the motion, because there was a motion.
Yeah, there was a motion. Yes, that happened last Friday.
Absolutely marvelous. I mean, I spent the time, and I think in all my years following Parliament, I don't think I've ever seen a parliament session that went so long without a break. Senator Bola, I don't know, you could correct me.
Well, that I was saying
9 to 3.
Yes. And maybe they were doing it
after 3.
Intermittently when they finish speaking, because I can't understand that they're not breaking for lunch. I thought at one time they were going to, but they didn't.
Yeah.
So I said maybe they were stepping out 1 by 1, 2 by 2, going and have a little bite and come back.
Not even a tea break. You know, sometimes the chair might say, okay, let's have a tea break, 15 minutes or whatever. Not even that.
Yeah.
But even more than that, for that entire period of time, to be able to engage the attention of the Grenadian public and Grenadians overseas and regionally and so on in relation to this particular issue, because I had several friends who are not Grenadians, Americans, Canadians, and some of my British friends and so on, who tuned in. And they were very interested in hearing the discussions in relation to this issue, especially since we're speaking about things as the green economy and so on. So they were very interested in hearing the discussion of what was taking place in Grenada. And from time to time, they do tune in to Hard Talk. They do listen. They do try to follow up on exactly what is going on in Grenada from time to time. And they were very impressed with the discussions that were taking place and with the explanations that were given by government of Grenada in relation to the whole issue. And especially, I must single out, though, the presentation by the Honorable Gregory Bowen.
Yes.
I mean, he's par excellence, but I think he was above his game during that parliament sitting. He was above his game during that parliament sitting in the detail that he was able to go into in relation to the Grand Lake deal.
Yes.
So I think that was a wonderful sitting.
So someone just said on from a message there that we did not ID the caller. We did not ID.
I'm sorry.
So let me let them know it is the honorable, in terms of the Hard Talk program, Sheldon Scott.
Honorable Sheldon Scott. Don't worry.
And they know your voice, you know. They know who it is. They're just being provocative. They just want to be provocative. But, you know, they know it's you. Now, there's something that I want to ask you, Sheldon. I know it was talking about Friday's episode, and to me it's the best I've ever heard a parliamentary sitting. Every single speaker, I think, did justice to the resolution. That's the best way I can put it. In their own way, in their own form, they did justice to it. But amazingly, there was something that I found out from the presentation that the Honorable Gregory Bowen did. I've heard him many times on the WRB Grand Lake issue, on the sale and the shares and what have you. But I was not aware that this buyback clause, the repurchasing clause that was part of the wholesale agreement, was something that the government then insisted on having in the agreement.
I also thought it was something that WRB brought to the table.
I thought so. All along, I always thought it was WRB who brought that to the table.
Yeah, because, I mean, it's just simply crazy. Because the buyback clause basically said that the government of Grenada can't sell the shares unless WRB give the okay.
Yes.
And WRB can't sell the shares unless the government of Grenada give their okay.
Well, in some instances, in the first instance, government must be the one buying back, and government can only not buy back if they find another buyer to say, well, okay, this person is going to buy in our case, and government has to find that buyer, not WRB.
And also the calculation in which government has to buy back is something that, I mean, it's just totally ludicrous.
Yeah.
I cannot understand how any group of individuals now, 20, 25 years ago, 100 years ago, would even consider to put that sort of clause within a document and place that on their people. I could never understand that. Because I was looking over the share purchase agreement. I think the thing is this, when we hear certain elements within the opposition speaking, and even other elements who may not be in opposition but may just be concerned, because I think we have to separate it. There are people who are just opposing for opposing's sake. But there are many Grenadians out there who are concerned about this because they just don't fully understand. They don't know, up to this day, they still don't know what was in the share purchase agreement.
Yeah.
They haven't seen the laws and so that may be referred to. So they're concerned about this issue, and they may make statements and so, but it's not that they anti the sale or the anti-government or the anti-Dr. Mitchell or the Honorable Gregory Bowen. It is that they're just concerned about the entire issue, because the issue of electricity ties into a lot of things. It ties in heavily to agriculture.
Very much so.
it ties in heavily to the issue of tourism.
Yeah.
I know of one facility that up to this day cannot reopen in the south of the island because of the high rates of electricity and what they had to pay. Because even if you have 2 guests in your guest house or your hotel, you have to have on the lights by the pool in case they want to go in the pool. You have to have on the lights out in the corridors because you can't have guests tripping over themselves because they're walking to go somewhere and the place dark. They're going to sue you. So you have to have the lights on and everything. And the high rates of electricity that these people had to pay. So electricity is an important issue to them. If they can lower the amount of money that they spend on electricity, it means they may be able to increase the salaries of the staff without having to complain. They could say, okay, well, we have 2 people in the kitchen there. They've been working with us for X amount of years. We could give them a little increase. We have some other people. We could give them some increases. And so because we're paying less, because some of them are speaking tens of thousands of dollars that they have to pay on a monthly basis.
Yep.
So it's important to that aspect. It's important to the agricultural sector because just now we're going to see mangoes falling again, and the story going to start up. We have all the mangoes falling from the trees in Grenada. Why don't we take it and use it and make jams and jellies and so on? But Senator Bola, remember there was the place in St. David.
Yep.
Remember the juice place in St. David?
Yeah. Owned by a Dr. Mitchell and not the Dr. Mitchell.
And then there was also one in Birch Grove as well.
Exactly.
Well, the one in Birch Grove deals with more oil. That's it.
No, but there was a juice factory.
A juice factory.
Made juice in Birch Grove.
Birch Grove.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure that I was aware of that.
But we have
anyway.
to ask ourselves, why did these places end up having to close down?
Yes.
Now they had the producers. Not like they wasn't getting and so on. It's not like they wasn't getting mangoes and tamarind and all these sort of things.
Guavas and what have you, different.
They're getting them. Although, Brother Bola, I hardly seen guavas. We have to talk about that one. But anyway, I think most people like the cutting down them guava tree. Yeah. But you had the situation where they were receiving that. They had the proper staff. So they had an intelligent group of people, capable group of people to work there. They had everything in place. But the one thing that kept killing them was the cost of production due to electricity. Mm-hmm. So they could not continue. So when you get the box of juice from them and you compare the quality was even higher than what you're getting from outside of Grenada.
But the price was triple.
Yeah, from people who were able to make it because, Trinidad, they have acres upon thousands of acres they could grow and they could produce and so on. But their cost of electricity is also very low. So their production cost was low. They could afford to put on a boat or a plane, ship to Grenada and sell at a price that's still lower than somebody that only have to get from the farmer and produce right here and send to the supermarket because of the cost of electricity.
Yep.
And the worst part of that is when some of them, for instance, the chocolate factory in Hermitage, when you attempt to go now and you decide you're going to do the solar, then you had Grenlec coming to you with this clause that was in the agreement, in the act now, that says that the only people to produce electricity in Grenada is Grenlec.
Yeah.
Yep.
So nobody else is allowed to produce electricity.
For 80 years, they had that.
80 years.
For 80 years, they had that power. And they only lived there for 26, So, so you know what was happening? But they had again 54, 50, and 54 more years before that would be elapsed.
I might not even be around.
Well, most of us won't, I don't believe. Yeah.
But Shalon, I want to quickly play a small clip of one of the NDC's, I believe, Minister of Finance at the time, when he spoke on government buying back or reclaiming assets. And I just want to play that quickly for the general public because I want to give both sides of the story. You know, we
have to do that.
Yeah, we don't want it to make it seem as if we are the only ones talking about it because they've spoken about it before. So let's quickly play that clip.
Assets by the government of Grenada to the National Insurance Scheme. You know, if the truth be told, Andre, in the exercise of its executive function, governments buy and sell assets from time to time so as to consolidate their fiscal position or so as to achieve their socioeconomic objectives. In fact, the government may even give away assets to achieve its socioeconomic objectives or sometimes even forcibly acquire assets to achieve those objectives. This is true for all governments, inside Grenada, outside Grenada. In the last year alone, the government has bought property. We bought a property on Lucas Street that will house the Ministry of Legal Affairs and the Office of Corporate and Intellectual Property. We bought lands in Hope that we will donate to the University of the West Indies to set up its open campus. We are negotiating, we took back Grand Beach from the Timberg company. We are negotiating right now for the purchase of lands in the Wester Hall area for the establishment of the new teaching hospital. So the government has been doing what it has to do to buy lands where necessary, and in the same way that it will sell lands as necessary. None of these transactions require parliamentary approval. I think it's important to see that. The purchase and sale of lands or other assets for that matter by the state does not require parliamentary approval.
All right. And there you have it. And we all know the voice of the people who do not know the voice. That was the voice of Nazim Book, who was the former Minister of Finance. And that was in 2012. Now, here he is saying that government does not need parliamentary approval to buy back or to sell state-owned assets. Now, these are the same individuals or people who made it seem like the government has done something so illegal, so unheard of.
I think you're a little bit more accurate if you say people associated with. Because the individual himself, I have not personally heard him make a statement. I'm not saying he didn't, but I have not heard.
This, he has been very smart in staying away from this issue.
Right.
Yeah.
If you understand what has been taking place, academics in the field of economics and so on, intelligent people who really understand how government runs and so on, or people who have held specific positions before and are in the opposition camp, people with sense, have been staying away from trying to twist and turn this issue. And he has been one of them who has been staying away from speaking on this issue because he knows that this is what he said back in 2012 or so. This was one of the statements that he made. At a point in time, you had the situation where shares in various government-owned shares in different entities were being put up for sale, and this was his defense of it when he was asked the question. This was his defense in relation to that particular issue. So he's been very wily in staying away from it.
Yes.
And meanwhile, others have been using themselves as cannon fodder to go out there and spread misinformation about the issue, claiming that, well, government can't do that, and government... At the point in time that he was making this statement, the Parliament of Grenada hadn't met for nearly 6 months.
Yes.
And Parliament hadn't been dissolved, they just did not meet.
Which was an illegal act, by the way.
Yeah. And there you had him mentioning all of the things that they had sold or had acquired, and Parliament hadn't met for 6 months.
But I think there's another important thing for the general public to know, and I think we've been avoiding saying it, and we need to say this one. The NDC administration were offered the opportunity to do what the NNP government has just done and were unable to do it. The NDC government were offered...
And that's the NDC government of 2008 to 2013, eh? Because you need to clarify, because in 1994, it was the NDC government, and NDC government that sold the government shares in Grenada to WRB. But they had an opportunity between 2008 and 2013. When there was another NDC government. Right. Good. I just want to clarify that.
They did not and were unable to purchase the shares.
Yeah.
And you're hearing the same people whose political organization, which still contains various members who were involved deeply at that point in time, were unable to come up with the money to purchase the shares at that point in time. And it also flies in the face of what WRB was saying, which was basically giving the story that, it's because of the new National Party government we're going. Well, if it's because of the new National Party government you're going, why back in coming to the end of 2012 you were offering the government of Grenada to buy the shares of Grenlec?
Absolutely.
And Ms. Duncan, you have something there on that one?
Hey, boy, and my cursor, they right on it, and so I'm going to play it right now.
I'm watching my mouth. Play it for them.
I'm playing it right now.
The company WRB Enterprises bought the majority of the Grenlex shares in 1994, which was 61.4%. The NDC administration was given the opportunity to repurchase the shares worth approximately 90 million EC dollars. Finance Minister Nazim Burke says the NDC administration can't afford to acquire the shares at this stage.
$104 million it was, that we would have had to find to purchase these shares at the time. And after we looked at all of our options, we explored different opportunities, it became clear that we could not really raise that money to purchase the shares at that time.
WRB gave the government 30 days to make up its mind.
The time restrictions that were imposed for the government to exercise any rights that it had were also too short. Imagine, for example, saying that we are going to sell our shares and you have 30 days to decide whether you're going to buy them or not. 30 days is way too short. The government can't raise 104 or 105. The government could not, in 30 days, make that decision.
He also spoke of government's plans to change the regulations governing the provision of electricity services. This, he said, will guide the operations of any company which may decide to purchase the Grenlex shares.
We took the stand that we have no difficulty entering into a new relationship with a new strategic partner, such as Emera or Light and Power Holdings, but we wanted to be absolutely sure that the concerns that we had about the electricity sector were addressed and that a new development framework was created once and for all that would put Grenada's energy supply on a sound footing.
Emera serves as the lone power utility on the island of Barbados. Rikisha St. Louis, GBN News.
Much has been.
All right, and there we have it. I mean, that says it all, Mr. Buller. I mean, we don't even need to say anything as it relates to that. That says it all.
We need to say a lot.
But why the NDCI so speaking right now? And I'm going to speak specifically to the NDCI. You're going to speak to the people who are opposing just for opposing sake from the political organization, the National Democratic Congress. Why they're not telling Grenadians this part? Why they're not telling Grenadians they could not find 104, 105 million to be able to buy back the shares of WRB. No wonder they're so surprised that the new National Party able to do it.
And they gave them 30 days to do it as well.
Well, you know, Sheldon, I'm glad you raised that point because there are two things I want to cut in here to see. One, they're not just surprised, they are angry. They are angry because in their minds, the government of Grenada had and it's different to theirs in that we had a judgment that we had to fulfill by a particular date. And if government did not fulfill it by doing what they did, then WRB would have the power to go back to court and then garnish, as they would put it. I think that's the word they use. It simply means that they can withhold anything that government is making money from to raise the money that government was supposed to pay them for the shares, right? So that's one. So everybody was waiting. So it came as a shock, it came as a surprise, and it angered them bitterly. I mean, if you had listened to some of the people that was on that Beyond the Headlines program, it was pure venom, anger, and fire coming out of them. Because where did that money come from? That's the reason why they went out there as they normally would, saying that, oh, it's Chinese and this, that, and the other. They couldn't believe that the end. In fact, I met a gentleman days before the news broke out, and he said to me, he said, so I'll get the money to pay Grenlex? And I only responded by saying, well, this is NNP, you know. You should understand that. That's all I said to him. I said, this is NNP. And if that person is listening, they know who I'm talking about. I won't call a name, but I wanted them to know they're not dealing now with a government or an administration that does things by guess. Yes, sometimes we make mistakes, but it's an administration that purposefully wants to do things that will benefit the people, benefit the nation, make Grenada and Grenadians better and put them in a better light. So that was one.
And didn't have to run to the NIS to try and pay salaries at the end of the month.
No.
And the second one
I wanted to make is that it is absolutely important for us to establish a needed fact here. Look, now that the government has repurchased the shares, this administration, they're saying, listen, when everything is worked out, we want this partnership to be first and foremost with Grenadians who reside here and Grenadians in the diaspora. The first opportunity to buy those shares, because government doesn't want to keep the shares, that is opposed to what the NDC of 2008 to 2013 was saying, that they did not have an issue with going into an arrangement with another foreign-based company to repurchase the shares that WRB wanted to sell. Remember I said before, the buyback clause said government must buy, and if you cannot buy, you must find someone to buy it. They was prepared to get a single company, not offering one share then to Grenadians, but just like WRB, a foreign-owned establishment can come and buy it and will enter into a new arrangement, which also speaks to the fact that the Electricity Supply Act and the arrangement that WRB had, they too recognized that it was not a good arrangement. Hence the reason you had the Minister of Finance there saying, we will have to make a new arrangement, new act, because how can you have an asset which is tantamount to a national security matter, not just an asset of great and enormous importance to your economic development and growth, but it is also tied to your national security, and put it in the hands of a foreign company for 80 years and to say to the government, you can't do nothing. One, they disband the public regulatory, utility regulatory thing. So nobody could regulate them. They act as their own. It's like they were like the mafia.
Yeah.
We do what we want, and government. There are some countries, they used to say one time in Mexico that the cartel could determine who gets into office and how the country is being run. That's what the WRB was like in Grenada, with the agreement that an NDC administration signed with them. They were in charge. Nobody could. Government couldn't talk to them. Government couldn't say, well, look, your rates are too high. Who are you talking to? We have a right to put what rates we want. We have a right. And if you decide, as you said earlier on, Sheldon, that, listen, I can't take this thing now, so I'm going to get myself some solar panels. The sun is out there. I'm going to set it up. I'm going to generate some energy. You couldn't do that. They closed you. You had to get permission from them, first and foremost. And if they did give you the permission, whatever you generate, you had to sell it to them, not use it for yourself, Generate, sell to them, and they sell back to you at twice time the price that they buy from you for. But
what I think needs to happen, Senator, I think a lot of people need to start getting their hands on what was the share purchase agreement. They need to get their hands on certain documents. What was the 1994 Electricity Supply Act that existed back then, that was put in place, and the share purchase agreement, because the share purchase agreement said that the government has to change the law,
Yes.
Yeah.
They had to change the law. If you look at the share purchase agreement, anybody that has a copy of it or gets a copy of it, I want them to look at page 60 and 61 of the share purchase agreement. And on page 60, they're going to see the following words. The buyer, that's WRB, agrees to provide the government of Grenada with prior notice to offering any Grenlex shares held by buyer to any person outside the WRB group. The government of Grenada shall be accorded a period of 30 days following the giving of such notice from buyer, within which to consider whether it wishes to purchase the Grenlex shares held by buyer prior to any such shares being offered for sale to such other person. In other words, you have to offer it to government first, or government has to offer it to WRB. They have to decide within 30 days whether they could raise the money to do it or not. And we heard former Minister Burke saying that this was crazy, that how you expect the government to raise $104 million in 30 days. He said it. He came out and he said the government can raise $104 million. So he was basically saying that this part of the share purchase agreement was nonsense. So, I mean, and this is the thing that you have people, like, for instance, and I am afraid to call name, I hear Ms. Claudette Joseph speaking a lot of nonsense. Because if she reads the share purchase agreement, which I'm pretty sure she has, she would not be misleading the Grenadian people by trying to say that it's the new National Party administration that signed the agreement with WRB. The agreement was signed in 1994.
Yes.
The new National Party didn't come into office, I think it's until about June 1995.
1995. But I think what happened sometime, if the history goes back right in my mind, they made a move immediately as they came in to try to change some things, or at least then to get back the shares. If they couldn't get it, to change some other things. And they were clearly told by the court that they could not, so they had to sign on to something saying, well, we have to be in agreement with it. We can research and verify that, but in 95, there was some move on the part of the new National Party as it relates to the Grenada WRB. And it was from there that the relationship, because WRB realized that NNP wasn't happy and satisfied with the kind of arrangement that was made in 94.
But after hearing the presentation of Prime Minister last week Friday in relation to his first meeting with the individual from WRB, understand why?
Yes.
But this agreement was signed in 1994, and as a lawyer, Ms. Claudette Joseph is very aware that if you sign an agreement in 1994, and then another government comes in 1995 and decides that they're going back on that agreement with WRB, we, the Grenadian people, would have had to buy Grenlec back at that point in time, and at the calculated rate, if it's 15 million or whatever they paid for it, government of Grenada at that point in time would have to find 20-something, 30-something or more million to buy it back. And then WRB could have, at that point in time, taken you to arbitration back in 1995 if it decided you're not moving forward with what they signed. Because within the share purchase agreement, there are clauses inside there for if somebody comes in afterwards and just try to change the thing, which is what they activated after the 2016 change in the law. There are clauses within the share purchase agreement. So herself as a lawyer knows fully well that what she's telling the Grenadian people, trying to give them the National Party,
we lost you a little bit.
Being untruthful to the Grenadian people.
Yes.
And I think it's just so. I mean, when you look at that share purchase agreement, the buyer, WRB, their subsidiaries and their respective directors and employees shall be permitted to repatriate all salaries, consultant and director fees, and other financial prerequisites received under and by virtue of the contract within Grenlec. And further down it says, shall be approved expeditiously, and any such repatriation shall be exempt from all taxes, levies, charges, or imposts, whatever. So in other words, they could take their money tax deductible. They don't have to worry about tax.
They don't have to spend anything in Grenada.
They go to Florida with it. Not a cent. They don't have to pay anything on tax. And remember, this includes the salaries and so of directors and employees and consultants and directors' fees and other things like that. They didn't have to pay any tax on that. They could have just take their money.
But no, they could have. That's exactly what they did.
But that's what they do. Yeah, that's exactly
what they did. But not only that, using that same thing from the repurchasing thing, they decided to milk, because I don't know if you're aware, or probably we sometimes forget that. While you had the whole management structure here in Grenada that operated and ran the company, WRB had a subsidiary firm which they gave a management contract to for $220,000 US annually. For management consultancy advice. These are people who just sit in Florida, whether it's family members or friends or whatever they were, with the money going right back to them. So outside of management and director's fee and what have you, $220,000 US annually for 26 years just came off like that. Maybe that is their little fun money where they used to go out and have a drink and so it, because they were getting the director's fees and all kind of thing. And knowing fully well that after the 2016 new Electricity Supply Act went into thing, that they were going to invoke the repurchase clause. You know all the things they did after that. They took a loan. Was it 57 million? Or 47 million?
I can't remember the exact figure.
Somewhere there about either 47 or 57.
A significant amount.
Yes, to pay dividends. I mean, crazy. And up till this day, I am still wondering, why are some of our people, let's forget the fact that you don't like NNP, you're not supporting NNP, you don't want nothing to do with Dr. Mitchell and Honorable Boeing and what have you. But this is your country. And sensible, who I consider to be academically versed individuals, who knows what this thing is, what it has been doing to our country and continue to do to our country, will still stand up and oppose the fact that the government, whether they squeeze blood out of stone or what did they do to get the money to make sure that we repatriate, we got back what is rightfully ours as a national productive asset. You going against it and cussing and saying that this was a bad deal?
And we can't say it's because they don't understand, huh? Because the information is being provided. It's for you to access.
Sheldon, tell me why people have to do that, if you can.
Well, you see, it's like watching the discussion on one particular local network a few weeks ago, a week or two ago. I was looking at one of the discussions in relation to the buyback. And in my mind, you had three categories of people on the program. You had the angry, the careless, and the clueless.
Okay.
Because these individuals, I mean, it's the facts were facing them in the face. I mean, okay, they can't believe that the government of Grenada was able to secure the money from local resources to be able to repurchase the shares of Grenlec. They cannot believe that. I think sometimes it could be that, probably speaking in some technical terms, and people don't understand what is capital expenditure and what is recurrent expenditure. And probably we have to tell them capital expenditure are the things that you, or you're doing a bridge or a community center or some major project or so that you spend our money and you're done with that. Recurrent expenditure, your monthly bills. All that you have to pay, like your salaries and so on, that you have to pay, that's recurrent expenditure that you have to spend on a monthly basis. And the law states, and I'm going to find the law in a little while. I have it here on somewhere on my computer. I'm going to pull it in a while. But the law that was referred to is very clear that you cannot take money from the capital expenditure side and go over to the recurrent expenditure. Now, the money for the capital expenditure generally comes from various sources. One, you have grants. So a country may give a grant, which is something you do have to repay. They give a grant to the government of Grenada and say, well, do this project. We find that you need a fish market in this area. Here is X amount of money to build that fish market. Loans, and the loans are approved when you do the budget. And Senator Bola, you could correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
Every time you do the budget, to be able to cover your capital expenditure especially, you do your loan approval at the same time.
It's called the loan authorization bill.
That comes side by side with the budget.
With the budget, yes.
Every budget sitting.
As soon as you finish the debate.
Yeah, and I'm saying these things because this is the reason people like Mr. Nazenberg isn't saying anything, because he knows better and he is not going to damage his reputation, good or bad. He's not going to damage his reputation by looking like an idiot out there, saying these things when he knows that there's documented evidence to prove everything that the members of government are saying. That you have a bill that is in place that says that you cannot take out of the capital side and go on to recurrent. Because you cannot go and take monies that you have there under a capital project and decide that you're going to use that to pay salaries. Because I hear the argument, and again, no one is saying, and I'm sure the two of you in studio have said it before, I will continue to say it. Nobody is saying teachers don't deserve a raise.
All the public servants deserve it.
Nobody is saying that.
And they will get it.
Man, if I knowing the government as I know, knowing the members of cabinet as I know, if it was possible to double the salary of every public servant, it would have been doubled.
Yep.
Yeah.
Had it been possible to do that, the salary of every public servant would have been doubled. But you're not able to do that at this point in time when you have less money coming into the economy, because on your recurrent side, on your salaries and utilities and rentals and all these different things that you pay, on that side of the budget, you are mainly funded by the government income, the money that comes into government on a monthly basis. That's the money that you use on your recurrent side. You have to use some of that on your capital side because you have to do counterpart funding. Somebody may give you a grant for X amount, but government has to put money together with that now to finalize a project. Whether they say, okay, a community center, we're giving you $200,000, but to do the groundwork, you must find $50,000 to do the groundwork to start it up. You must find that government has to get money to do that as well. But you have less revenue coming into the country at this point in time. You know, tourism is down. The St. George University, which provides
almost 20% of
the highest amount of money into the local economy. The St. George University is not operating at this point in time. So you know you have to find other sources of money coming in. And if you increase the amount of money that you're spending on a monthly basis, you may not be able to continue paying it. And that is simply what government is saying when it comes to the salary. It's not that you don't deserve. In fact, the point has been made several times that it's actually best for the government to pay now.
Yes.
Because if you're paying later, then you're talking about interest on that.
You may run into that and back pay.
Yeah. You're talking about additional money that you're going to have to find to pay if that is the case.
But you know, you made a point, Sheldon, in explaining current or recurrent and capital, that it's from your money you raise, your taxes and fees and, you know, and license, and so is what government uses to take care of the recurrent side of the budget. And we did that last week, talking about the two sides of the budget, the recurrent and the capital. But I just wanted to interject here that you have to manage your recurrent side in such a way that you must get some surplus to help you on your capital side. Because you spoke about loans and grants for the capital side, and then you spoke about counterpart funding. But you can only have counterpart funding if you manage what you're getting from your taxes and your fees and your license and so, and do it prudently enough so that you can meet the needs of the recurrent side, plus get the surplus for you to put it onto the capital side. I just want
exactly. And the thing is that government isn't saying that they will not pay. Government is saying that we will pay, but we will pay at a later date.
At a later date, yes.
Yeah, because and again, I see the way that some people are trying to twist this story as, oh, it's only a $60 a person. Yeah, it might be a $60 a person, but when you check across the board, how much million does it come up to on a monthly basis?
13 point something million for the year. So that's almost 1 point something million a month.
Additionally, so it's not just $60 or so on a monthly basis. And yes, we want the teachers to have it. We want the police officers and prison officers
and the medical people, the nurses and so, who have been working tremendously since COVID.
We want them get 1,000, not even 60. We want them get 1,000.
Yes.
But if it cannot be done now, it cannot be done at this point in time. And I think all of us need to realize that what has been purchased, when you purchased the WRB shares and also the shares of another smaller company that was at the side there, that government was able to...
The 11.6% shares.
Yeah. So government was able to purchase those two sets of shares, and now they have those shares, and so. Now who is going to benefit? It's the same police, the same doctors, the same nurses, the same lawyers, everybody. It's the same people of Grenada, because it belongs to each of us. And we are the ones that are going to benefit, instead of all the money now leaving and going to Florida. Where's the money going to go? Untaxed, going to Florida.
Yeah.
It's going to be here in Grenada.
For our benefit. But more than that, more than just the monies, the fact that we in Grenada right here will have an opportunity to buy buying into the shares of that company now. The fees, the shareholder fees. We ain't gonna borrow 57 million, but the company will generate enough that we can get a little something out of it. Mm-hmm. That too, because, and my understanding is that WRB over the last 26 years has been able to pull out over $300 million in profits from
something you spend 15 million for. If you spend 15 million,
well, here it was sold to them for 15 million, but it's 9 they already paid because they got back 4 in the first instance to help with purchasing a generator.
5 for the generator.
4 for the generator and 2 for a pension act and paying off some of the people who had to be paid off. Mm-hmm. So that's 6. So the government of the day eventually ended up with 9. And by the way, Sheldon, you know what happened to that $9 million? Was there any project, anything that
we
came
talking
up?
Transparency
I was wrong, but I can't tell you.
You can't remember? Probably
we know who to ask.
You have to go back and look for your specs to watch, to see.
I might have to research that one as well.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But the question was asked, and I hope it's answered. Where did it? Because apparently everybody is so concerned now with where the monies came from to pay for Grenada.
Yes.
We would now like to know where the money that was used or gained from buying Grenada, where that money went. That's
from
what the people
want.
The same way they're saying that how is the new national party that signed the agreement and so on. The same way, because it's so shame when they look at that share purchase agreement. They can't think to possibly try and align that with their political organization. Mm-hmm, so now they're going to say the money that was paid to NNP and not to them. Mm-hmm. That's what they're going to try to do now. They're going to try to say, but we know election was coming up at the point in time.
Yes,
so,
yes, it was just before an election.
Oh, yes.
Duncan,
say no more.
I think you've got the document there because I'm not in front of the computer right now. With the laws that is in place for the government to be able to move money around in the capital budget, but not to take it over to the recurrent side. I don't know if you're able to open it, but I think you should have it somewhere there. And if you could,
do you
open
remember the name of this one? Because she's going through.
It's a Word document. It should be there. It says basically laws that allowed government to do the repurchase or something like that.
It's not under the Financial Management Act, no? It's a public
under the financial...
The relocation warrants.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Right.
I can't see good from where I'm sitting here.
Right, under the Public Finance Management of 2015, the relocation warrants, that says, subject to subsection 2, the minister may, by means of a relocation warrant under the minister's hand, direct the accountant general that savings arising from expenditure vote approved by an appropriation act or a supplementary appropriation act be applied to aid of any item in any other expenditure vote in those estimates, or in aid of any new item of expenditure, and the amounts to be applied shall be deemed to have been appropriate for that purpose. And it says a relocation under subsection 1 may be in respect of a transfer between expenditures of different ministries, relocation warrant notwithstanding 1 and 2, no relocation shall occur so as to transfer savings of salaries or any other employee benefits, which is what you guys just spoke about, unless it is to personal emoluments, I believe that's the word. Emoluments, yes. Within another expenditure vote, and in any event, no relocation may occur to increase wages, salaries, emoluments, allowances, or other personal expenditure. And it goes on B to say for capital expenditure or recurrent expenditures from the public body to a ministry, if in the reasonable opinion of the minister, such relocation may hinder the effective execution of the budget, or will result in a breach of the aggregate expenditure or fiscal balance initially approved, which is basically what you both have been saying.
Well, it's more than a mouthful for the ordinary man to just take in like that. But in essence...
It's important to let people know that the minister is not just coming out there and saying, well, the Public Finance Act makes provision for it. But tell people this is the page in the Public Finance Act.
Right.
This is the section you can go and find
the
exactly
page again, Duncan, and tell them which act is the Public Finance Management Act of 2015.
Warrant.
And what page? Go down and see if you can see the page number.
I don't have the page. The section 37. It's section 37.
Right.
So I believe it's all there. Section 37, 1, 2A and B.
Right. So that section of the Public Finance Management Act is telling you that the minister, and it says minister there clearly, you know.
Yes, it does.
Does have the power. And remember we spoke about the loan authorization bill, which comes immediately as you finish the debate on the budget document. Well, in fact, the loan authorization bill is part of the budget document. It's part of the budget document because it comes together. So once you authorize, you give authorization to the Minister of Finance by means of borrowing from a commercial bank, or it says, or several commercial banks or other institutions of lending, the authority to loan so much and so much and so much. Here now in the Public Management, Financial Management Act, it's saying that you, if you have savings under the capital or under the current, but current remains with recurrent, capital remains in recurrent. You can't cross the bridge. You can't take current and bring it into capital and bring it into recurrent, you know. But within that section, the minister is authorized by law to move it to meet the needs, and that's what happened. So when our good friend say he has to sue and take to court, I don't know on what basis he's going to court or who is advising him legally.
I've even been looking at the Constitution of Grenada, and even within the Constitution, I cannot find any section that has been breached. And Section 5 of the Constitution of Grenada deals with finance.
Yes.
And what government has done is totally, at least in my view, my unlearned...
Because you're not a legal luminary.
Yeah, I'm not a legal luminary like certain people who does go and talk nonsense. But from what I have been picking up, nothing has been breached. You could see clearly government has been following the letter of the law. I thought when I heard Parliament, I thought that I hear my good friend come out and say, well, look, this is what has been breached, this is what I'm taking up. But up to now, I still can't hear.
He's not taking up that in Parliament, Mr. Scott. He's taking that up in court.
It's sub judice.
It would be sub judice to go in Parliament and talk that issue.
Well, I was kind of interested. I wanted to hear.
We got to wait until the court date.
That's why I said I was surprised.
You can't be surprised. The man is also following the law. When a matter is in court and still under investigation, you can't talk about it. That is sub judice. You only want the man to get jail. But he's my good partner, too. Don't bother with them. You're on the right line. Do you think properly?
That's my good partner. I was just interested in hearing exactly what was the point that needed to be brought before a court of law, because as far as I am seeing, the Public Finance Management Act, Section 37, Section 42, I am seeing that government is following that, especially Section 37B, which speaks that you cannot move from capital expenditure to recurrent expenditure. Government is following that. Yep. So I'm understanding that. I even sort of trying to make an issue out of the fact that Honorable Oliver Joseph was speaking and he said that the monies are going to come from loans and grants and so on. Your capital budget is funded by loans and grants, and some comes from government revenues.
Yep.
But it's mainly funded through loans and grants. And when the budget was passed at the end of 2019 for the year 2020, and you did that loan authorization, I'm saying the correct thing, loan allocation, loan authorization.
Yes.
That came along with it. You authorize the government to be able to use the money from the capital expenditure and the loans and so on, which is what they have done to repurchase Grenlec. But I think
To repurchase WRB shares, yeah?
WRB
yeah,
shares.
less than me.
And the smaller company.
yes, and the subsidiary. Because Grenlec remains. Grenlec is the local company that is still here, remains here, and I believe will continue to operate.
And you know, it's very frightening to think that these individuals are individuals who have been in parliament, been in government, written up budgets, sat through budgets, and still do not understand these intricate details as it relates to capital and recurrent size of the budget. Now, if that is the case, it would definitely explain what happened in 2008 to 2013, where there was no proper management of the country's finances. So we had to sell assets and take loans and had to forego salaries to later months and so on. It would definitely explain. So now we have an explanation as to why what happened in 2008 to 2013 happened, because they just don't understand how to govern.
Yeah. That's a big statement.
Well, it's the truth. It's the truth. You have to put it to that.
You know what? I would not go into that section yet. We'll leave that for another time. I want to ask you though, Sheldon, in your own mind, and we kind of have dealt with the legality, and I think a lot of it was dealt with in Parliament on Friday, and maybe some more will come out in different ways when the upper house meets, when the Senate meets. I'm not too sure about the date yet, but the debate has to happen at in the chamber of the Senate as well. But contextualize for us, Sheldon, as a citizen of the country. Now government says, look, we have taken back or gotten back into our possession a strategic, important economic asset that was given away some time ago. And that would mean benefit for the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. Sort of put into the mind of a person who is sitting out there and wondering, what can I get from Grenada? I have my little 1x12. I only have 2 bulbs in my house, one outside, one inside. And I have a plug. I don't even have a fridge, or I only charge my phone. What is that to do with me? How do I get any benefit from the repurchasing of the shares from WRB?
Well, there are various ways to answer that question. One would be the immediate one, that the average Grenadian will have the opportunity to purchase shares, and therefore they'll be a shareholder, whether it's a share that they're holding for themselves or their grandchildren or their great-grandchildren, whoever get it. But they'll be able to purchase shares, and as such, they'll be able to get their dividends and so on off of that on a yearly basis. So that's one benefit of it, that the money won't be heading to Florida again. It will be heading to average Grenadians right here in Grenada. Mm-hmm. The second aspect of this is that with the moves that are being made in relation to renewable energy, and if you look at the National Development Strategic Plan, several sections of it speak to the importance of reducing the cost of electricity in Grenada. We have, if not the highest, one of the highest electricity rates in the region. Mm-hmm. I mean, what we pay for electricity here compared to what people in other countries pay is amazing. And part of that is due to the way that we are generating electricity. Back in about 2013, 2014, there was a Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, and Dr. Mitchell had gone to that meeting. And the Prime Minister of New Zealand at the time wanted to see him. And then after speaking, he said to him, listen, I can help you all reduce the cost of electricity in Grenada through geothermal. And he asked Dr. Mitchell to come to New Zealand instead of coming straight back to Grenada, to pass to New Zealand, trying to remember which country the meeting was held in, but it was somewhere in that region. Mm-hmm. And he was asked to come to New Zealand and see their geothermal operation, how they're using geothermal to generate electricity. Geothermal, for those of you that may not know, is using the heat from the earth mm-hmm. to be able to generate electricity. So like from some of the sulfur springs and the hot springs and so on, the heat that comes out from those areas to be able to generate electricity using that. So you don't have to buy fuel from Venezuela or Trinidad or anywhere. You're using what is already in your country together with your sunlight and so. Once we head into that direction, because the study has been done, I know a study was done around Mount St. Catherine and in some areas to the base of Mount St. Catherine and so on, in relation to the availability of geothermal sources. I know that a study was done. In fact, I saw the study a few years ago. I saw it. The problem with that is that if it had to be done under the old law, it means that you had to do it through WRB and Grenlec.
Yep.
You had to do it through them. It means now, though, that another company can come and set up and link into the grid that we have and ensure that there's a lower cost for electricity production in Grenada. Rather than you have to wait for a boat to come with a bunch of diesel or fuel and so on to come and pump over to Queen's Park, that you can have solar panels up, or that me, the individual, because solar power, if you look at the price of solar panels 5-10 years ago and you look at the price now, it's way cheaper. Way cheaper right now. That I could be able to produce my electricity and I no longer have to sell it to Grenlec.
Yeah.
I don't have to do it if I don't want to link into Grenlec grid. I don't have to do that. I can produce my electricity for myself and cut that bill out. I have the initial setup and then the rest is profits for me. I don't have to spend the amount of money that I have to spend on a monthly basis to Grenlec as a bill again. So lowering the cost of electricity, not only to the average consumer, but importantly as well to the sectors that I mentioned before, the agricultural production sector, that's the factories that you want to set up to do the saltfish and so on.
Value added.
We're buying millions of dollars of saltfish from Ovia Island. We live on island, surrounded by water with fish. And we buy millions of dollars worth of fish on a yearly basis. Millions Grenada spends on fish. Salted fish, smoked fish, canned fish that we spend millions for on a yearly basis that we can produce here locally. But the problem has been that the cost of electricity has been so high that by the time you produce it, you're going out of business. You can't sell at a price that's going to be competitive. So we'll be able to have more jobs, create more jobs here in Grenada, that people will be able to find employment or create employment by setting up businesses that with these things like either taking mango and making the mango and the mango chutney and these different things like that. Or even if you want to take the breadfruit and make flour, because you can do that, Take the breadfruit and the fig and so on and the yam and so on and make flour and the cassava flour and these different things. That you would be having such a low cost of electricity, getting the cost down, and if necessary, being able to set up your own generation unit. So you could you set up your solar panels, and that might be enough for you, and you could sell the rest, the remainder. You mightn't use all, so you use a certain amount, and you could sell the rest into the grid for Grenlec. I mean, this sort of thing is going to be able to help us set up more businesses in Grenada. The hotel sector, I know, are waiting anxiously to see the cost of electricity fall, because I mentioned before, there are hotels that build tens of thousands of dollars on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
Well, the airport, for example, consumes about $10,000 a day. On a daily basis. They
you can imagine how much SGU uses.
Yeah, in excess of $300,000 per month to Grenlec for electricity supply. SGU again is another major user. Now, I am happy that you said all those things, because in the minds of some people, they think that the only benefit that can come is a reduction in the cost, and that will come, I believe, because that's a promise made by the government. However, we have to caution people to not be of the belief that go next month, the bill will automatically go down by 30 or 40%.
That won't be happening, no.
It will take time. There are a number of things that have to be worked out and be put in place. And I also believe that a reduction will be a gradual one. You know, you get a percentage now, and as the company gets deeper into renewables, which is a cheaper form of getting the energy. As more people set up their little private operations of using solar or wind or what have you, and they generate for their use and then sell the excess to the national grid, to Grenelec, that will effectively see your prices as a housemaker, as an ordinary person, going down. As more business establishment comes on, because now, so for example, you spoke agriculture in a general way. Let's look at the poultry farmers. We know that we import almost $30 million worth of poultry into the country on an annual basis, and there have been the call, and there's the poultry policy, and the ministry is doing its part, and government is providing concessions and what have you. But we're being told that the cost of feed is about 70% of your production, and then electricity is another huge chunk. So if we can come to an arrangement where we can get the cost of feed down, and we can get the cost of electricity down, one, for growing the birds, but also for processing them, defeathering and cleaning, because you need some electrical stuff, and so you can cut that. We can then see the price of local poultry coming down, probably in line with the imported ones, and we know that our people have a preference for local, but it's just a matter of cost. So there again, we can see more people getting into poultry production, because the demand for local poultry will get greater, and eventually we can become self-sufficient. So there are diverse ways in which we will see benefits coming as a result of the reacquisition or the repurchase of our shares, and making it now again a local. So a lot more money will remain in Ireland, circulating in Ireland for the use of island people, Grenadians, right here, making this little island a better place. Mind you though, and we probably need to do the research to get a little bit more facts, but the same WRB, Sheldon, I think you would know that they too was involved in energy production and distribution in Dominica through Domlec. But some years ago, they had to move out because Skerritt and them took over, so it's now government-owned company totally. And they are into the same geothermal and other things. And Dominica has
many sources of geothermal, because they have several fissures all over that they can use.
Right, that they're using. And so electricity has definitely become cheaper. But interestingly though, I found out that WRB has not yet been paid for the shares of the company that they had in Dominica when they gave it up. And
I'm pretty sure that share purchase agreement that they had there was different to the one.
Well, they didn't even have a share purchase agreement. They didn't have. So, hence the reason they are still struggling to come up with a formula as to what they should be paid. Be paid, I think they will at some point in time, but the government was under no pressure. They had no urgent obligation, as we did in Grenada, to pay them off. We had to, because one, it was a court order, but it became a court order because of the agreement that the NDC of 94 insisted that must be part of the agreement, so that anything you do that was going to affect the profitability of WRB shares in any way. Do you know, and you have read it, that even if a hurricane came, and because sometimes people think it's because of the new law that government passed, that was the only reason. But if there was a hurricane, and it did significant damage to the infrastructure that Grenelec had, and it was going to cost an excessive amount to rebuild this sector, that in itself was sufficient to cause WRB to invoke the Repurchase Act?
Yes, indeed. But there were so much things in
just
that
crazy,
agreement, and so. For instance, if you, Brother Bola, they decided they wanted your property, like your piece of land,
yes,
that the government of Grenada had to buy that piece of land, the government of Grenada had to use local sources, use taxpayers' money, purchase that piece of land, and then hand it over to Grenelec.
Yes. And
that really had to pay for it. They just had to hand it over to Grenelec for energy production.
And that's why some of those people who are trying to defend and make it look as though repurchasing the shares was such a bad thing said that the government of Grenada was not serious about renewables. because Grenlec was waiting on them to purchase the lands to give to Grenlec for them to set up the solar farms. When you're taking away hundreds of millions of dollars in profit on an annual basis and not willing to spend $1 in renewables.
These people should have really said who it is that had to pay for the same land that had to pick up and hand to Grenlec for the production of solar power and these sort of things. Grenada, though, stands a good chance because we have the possibility, there is a feasible possibility due to the study that was done of geothermal energy here in Grenada, which means you cut out the additional cost of having to buy fuel. Obviously, we have solar. Obviously, we have the opportunity to use a lot of solar here and increase the amount of electricity produced in our national grid by solar power. We also have other sources like wind or so on.
Wind, some testing was
that
done.
You can use smaller, but you can use wind and so on and produce electricity for the island. We have several sources. I mean, you could even use waves, you know. You could use
wave energy
to produce electricity and so on. So we have several alternative, not just cleaner, but cheaper sources that can be used to drive the cost of electricity down. I know that one individual was saying, though, that if everybody starts to use solar panels and so, then they're not going to be using Grenlec and Grenlec going to go out of business. It's not a case of that because when more individuals are using the solar panels, remember Grenlec itself is cutting its expenses by also using renewable energy. So therefore, they're making themselves more profitable, and there has to be a balance in relation to how that operates. And again, even the people who are producing electricity using the solar panels are going to be feeding back into the Grenlec grid, which means that they have to produce less.
But there's also, as you say that, with the analogy that person drew, that is why now the new law, and it has already been set up, has set up what they commonly refer to the PURC, the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission. And these are the people that will have to give you the license to go ahead and generate, because you don't just buy solar panels and just put up. You must get a permission. And remember, before it was Grenlec had to give that permission. Now it is in an independent body who determines whether you're qualified and what you need and how much you need and things like that. They give you the license, which you have to pay for. But by so doing, they understand that Grenlec is the sole distribution, or Grenlec no longer, based on the new law, will be the sole producer as they was before. Because before they were the sole producer and distributor. They own the national grid. They still own the national grid, and they're the sole distributor. So I cannot produce energy for myself and share with you or share with Duncan. Once I have more than I need, it must be sold to the national grid, which is owned by Grenlec, and that goes for a fee. But even if you're not selling to them, the PURC ensures that you pay a certain fee monthly to Grenlec for generating. Much lower than what they were charging you before, though.
Yeah.
So they will still stay
calculation.
Yeah, I don't know the calculation.
Once you were using the solar panels and so on, you had to sell it back to them. It was taking you years to make back the money.
Yes.
From what you used to install your solar panels and so on.
Yes. So, Brother Sheldon, you know, there's a lot more that we can dive into here, because I think this topic, this issue about where we are now, and we have not touched a very lucrative side of it, the fact that from an environmental standpoint, as we move into renewables and cleaner form of generating energy and electricity, we will be significantly reducing our carbon footprints. Yeah. We will become much more environmentally friendly. And we did as a country, and I remember way back in Peru, when I was minister with responsibility for environment, to one of those meetings, sign on to what was called the NDCs, not the National Democratic Congress. I want people to know that quite well. Our NDCs, every country had to sign on to the NDCs, which means our nationally determined contribution, NDC, nationally determined contribution. And at the time, around 2014 when I signed, we did indicate that by 2025, we would want to cut our carbon emissions by about 30%. Now, in recent times, I think Senator Steele, when he was minister, they had a renewed NDC, and I think we're up to about 40% now by 2030. That's the contribution we're making. Now, we also know from studies done that 70% or more, or a little more, of the greenhouse gases that we emit, comes from our vehicles, our stock of vehicles, and Grenlec. Right, Grenlec I think emits about 40%, and vehicles 30 or 45 and 25. Thereabout is the thing, but 70% is between those two areas. So there are two things that we need to do. One, generate cleaner energy. It means that we'll have to cut back on the amount of diesel that we're using and going to renewables, which Grenlec was not prepared to do. And we also have to start looking at getting into the electric cars, less and less of the fossil fuel use vehicles to cut that back. But why am I going there? We know that through the Green Climate Fund, which has over $100 billion for small island developing states to access as grant, not loan, for doing renewable energy and for cleaning up the environment and so, is accessible to us. We have already, for the water sector, received $125 million, which NAWASA is using to relay new pipes, to build more storage space and all those things, to make us more resilient in the dry season with water. $125 million in grant from the Green Climate Fund. We have a project before them now that they're looking at for over $300 million to make the town of St. George the first climate resilient city in this region. But all of that will only come if we are able to prove that we can reduce our carbon footprints. So we are in a much better position. I also happen to know that there is a project, if not completed, has been written up for to send to the Green Climate Fund for funding, that we can use nutmeg as an economic forestry, because forest plant. Forestry is also a very important thing, because through the environment, the COP, and so there is something called READ, which is the redevelopment of forestry, something. I don't remember the acronym, which Guyana is benefiting a tremendous amount of money for replanting of forest. And we have conceptualized that rather than just planting trees, we can plant nutmegs, which is a forestry, but also will be of economic benefit to us. So they're looking for about $100 million to replant nutmegs all over the place. So I'm saying in short,
one of the important thing here is to note that with what you've just spoken about, that the monies, the $100 billion or how much money is available to the state of Grenada, and Grenlec as a company could not and cannot access, and the government of Grenada couldn't access and just say, well, we're giving it to a private company.
No, they can't.
It has to be the state of Grenada that accesses that money.
But there are conditionalities. That's what I was saying. And one of the conditionalities is that you must reduce your carbon footprint. You have to. So unless we were prepared to move into renewables, and then pretty soon to start looking at changing, which would be a gradual process. It may take another 20 years before we see a significant amount of our vehicles. I think there are one or two around. Grenlec itself had a couple, and I know a few people who have gone into what they refer to. Yeah, the Toyota Prius is but they have a name. Let us call them, boy. Not crossovers, what they call it? Hybrid. That's what I was looking for. The hybrids. We would soon see more and more of the hybrids, and I think what government should do is start by maybe this year, next year, as they have to replace the fleet vehicles for ministries, they should start going into that.
Yeah.
You know,
that'd be
so
a good
forth.
move.
And that through that we stand to benefit significant sums in grant, hundreds of millions of dollars that can help us develop as a small island state.
Also imagine you have the ministerial complex, you have schools and so on. Imagine the amount of electricity that could be produced into the national grid by solar panels on these buildings.
Yes. Yeah.
Solar panels on various government buildings around.
Street lights.
The amount of electricity you have to spend on the general hospital. You reduce the amount of electricity that you have to use, even in the market.
Yes.
By having solar panels at various locations. Yeah, you don't want to damage the aesthetics of the town of St. George. So you don't want to not be seeing the red roof and see a lot of the solar panels. But from certain other buildings that you could put the solar panels and so and reduce the amount of electricity that has to be generated via fossil fuels.
Yep.
And increase the amount by the green. Because you say it's important, you have to be at a certain level to be able to access the funding.
The funding, yes. So there's a lot that we can do. There's a lot that we stand to benefit, but we still have to, as a people and a government, bring the information out, get our people to understand it better, and to work along, to get on board, and to understand that it's not a quick fix. It's not an overnight change, but it's gradual changes that will eventually bring tremendous benefit, not just for this generation, but for many generations to come.
Indeed.
And so, Mr. Scott?
but Ebola, I think that's my cue to get out of here.
I didn't want to tell you go, man, because that wouldn't sound nice. I didn't want to tell you go.
I take it myself, I'll go. But before I go, I just want to say a special good morning to all of the loyal listeners of Hard Talk, wherever they are. I know Cami is most likely down on the terminal. I know that she's listening and so on. I know I heard her for the morning already.
Yes.
And she was singing nice and vibrant, so I hope she continues so for the entire day. My good friend Helen Marie, Mrs. Noriega, Mrs. Jacob, all of you that are listening to Hard Talk this morning. Again, Mrs. Clytie Pierre, my good friends over there in Carriacou and in Petit Martinique, Mammy Jane and all of them out there in Petit Martinique. And so I just want to say a very special, glorious Grenadian good morning to each and every one of them. And hope they're having a wonderful year thus far and have a beautiful year for the remainder of the year.
All right. But thank you so much, Sheldon, for taking the time, of course, to come out and have this discussion.
No problem, anytime.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad you said that because we will be having you again.
I should have hushed.
Whether you hush or you talk, we're going to find you wherever you're in that little room, joking whatever device you're joking and doing whatever you're doing. But we appreciate you, coming off what you are supposed to be doing to spend that time with us. And I know your voice being heard by a lot of people out there. Give them some reassurance. They know that you're there. They know that you're wrong. They're happy to hear you. And so, again, we say many thanks to you. And we look forward to having the opportunity for another discussion. Maybe on another issue. We don't know. It could be on the same issue if that prolonged, because we need to continue to update people as time goes by. And we say stay safe, stay good, my brother. It's a new year. I hope that whatever your plans are for the new year, that they will be a success. Have a good one.
All right, thank you, and both of you continue the wonderful job.
All right, and give Javon a kiss for me.
I'll do that.
All right, and there we have it. A very illuminating conversation, Mr. Bola, as it relates to the Grenada issue. And we do have a call on the line.
We can probably take
take that one call, but it has to be very, very short. That caller has to be very quick. Hello, good morning.
As quick as possible. Good morning. Good morning to my beautiful, handsome brother that just speak there.
Yes.
Brother Bola, good morning.
Good morning to you, Ms. Jacob. Yes.
And good morning to you, beautiful wife on your side.
Yes.
I am not the man's wife.
Yes, my wife on Hard Talk. You are. You are my Hard.
The wife on Hard Talk.
Yes, she's my Hard Talk wife.
I'm married to you all today. Wife on Hard Talk.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you can't come in there without your husband.
Yeah, right.
If you come in there without your husband,
I like that. Thanks for proclaiming that, Miss Jacob. Thank you very much.
And thanks for having Brother Sheldon. Oh, God. If you know how much people are tune in there.
Yes.
A lot of people tune into HARDTALK today, no?
Yes.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, that's good. He's there, but he's busy doing a lot of other things, so we don't disturb him regular. But
no.
We have time when we can, and we're happy that he has ascended to it and decided, yes, he will, give a call and give his knowledge.
Right.
What
and
he
I
has.
want to tell him his friend Miss Matterson, she had 2 weeks in hospital.
Okay. Well, I guess he's still listening, so I hope he hear you.
Yeah, go hear me.
Yes.
Go hear me.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Miss Jacob.
Wonderful and a blessed day.
You
God
too.
bless you all for that topic today.
All right, thank you.
Yes, thank you. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye. We're running out of time. So, callers, and I don't think they will get much opportunity tomorrow. God's willing, there should be postcard. We have a special guest on Wednesday. Very, very, very special guest. Once everything stays as it is, as plans are. We can't tell you the name. Just listen. A very special guest we should have on Wednesday.
Yeah, once it's confirmed, we'll post it on our Facebook page and so on as well.
Yes, well, up until yesterday, I got confirmation when I reminded. But I think we still have to just...
I'm just waiting for the go-ahead to announce. That's all.
Right. To do that, so we keep our fingers crossed on that. But, my friends, the consultation, the information, the chit-chat about WRB, Grenlec, the do's and don'ts, what is expected, what we should do, what we should look forward to, will continue because it's a topic that has a lot to offer for us. It's a move that the government made that, in the minds of a lot of Grenadians, is the best thing that has happened for quite a while. There's still a few people that have their doubts, but I think we should all participate in the process and hope that as they move forward and the shares are put out for sale for Grenadians to get an opportunity to buy into it, that they will, and that the transformation of that company will bring tremendous benefit for all of us over time. Not tomorrow, not next month, maybe not even at the end of the year we'll see all of it, but part of it gradually growing. So let's temper ourselves, let's be patient, but let's work together for the benefit of this beautiful island. Thank you so very much for being part of HARDTALK today.
You're all ready to go? Because we have a couple minutes. We could take our next call.
Yeah, you did it. Well, my timing probably seemed to be a little bit bad. Yeah, I don't understand that.
It was a very illuminating conversation, Mr. Bola. And to those listening, we could probably take just one call. If the caller is quick with their contribution. But of course we will engage Sheldon again, and I was eager to have this discussion with him because he has a lot of institutional knowledge along with yourself on this particular issue, something he's researched a lot on, and of course he was able to share with us so much valuable information. And it just goes to show that at some point, as a people, we must be invested in what is happening in our country, but also invested in finding the facts, finding out the proper information. Don't just, and this is not me saying, well, just listen to us, we have all the answers. No. Always listen to all sides of the story. Look at all of the facts and make your own determination. It's not fair for you to sit and just listen to one side and say, yes, that is what it is. Because it's easy for us to say, listen to us, we will give you the facts. We can say that, but we wouldn't like to encourage that, because then somebody could simply say, well, we can listen to them because what they're giving us is facts too,
But we say that and we do that, yeah?
Yeah, we do it.
We say that and we do that. We give facts.
We do that.
But you're correct. People must have the choice to listen elsewhere and to other people and to other programs, and then make the comparison.
Absolutely.
But we say we give facts, and we do give facts.
We do, absolutely. Yeah. And I often say this, I would never get up in the morning, leave my house, and come here and sit with the sole intention of misleading people.
Definitely not.
My energies can be better spent elsewhere, doing more productive things with my life. It would never happen that I would just come and decide to sit here and mislead the Grenadian public. I'd quicker do something else.
There seemed to be someone trying to reach us. I don't know. Maybe we lost it already.
There is. Good morning, Mr. Mills.
Oh my! I cut my pants down, man.
Mr. Mills, what are your pants doing down? You in the toilet, Mr. Mills?
No.
You're not in the toilet?
I just wanted to know how she knows me.
Well, you're gonna
I always know when it's you.
How you know that?
Your phone does have a special ring when it's you.
Yes, and I get a tingling feeling as well. Every time you pick up the phone to call, I get a tingling feeling, so I know you're calling.
Oh, that's it?
That's what it is.
Everything good otherwise?
Everything is good. We don't have much time. And I know it's you calling, so I had to say good morning to you, Mr. Mills. How was your weekend?
It was international.
What?
And yours?
Mine was local, and it was good.
I had a regional weekend.
Mr. Bola, Carriacou is still there.
No, we know. Well, Duncan, you saw the plan that I prepared.
He prepared a plan, Mr. Mills, to come to Carriacou, but nowhere in the plan did I see my name.
But
so that plan needs revising.
You didn't see your name?
No, so the plan needs revising.
Mr. Mills, I am doing my work as was prescribed for me.
I'm going to cry right now.
So here's what I did, what I was told to do, prepare a plan for a series of meetings, which I did. And then in that plan, I will be in Carriacou at a certain time should health and strength remain with me.
Remove your name and put your name.
So is she wanting Carriacou, not me? Okay, good, no problem.
Now, both of you are.
Well, Mr. Mills, we'll talk about that some more another day because I am sending the plan in to my bosses this afternoon for approval. And once
give me your number so that I could call in or can give me.
It's 440-1875 or 1876. But as soon as I'm finished here on the program, I'm moving out of this place to go to another meeting. But
so
75 or 76, write that down. Yeah. 440-1875-1876. There are times when I'm in the office outside of the studio for it.
What time I could call you?
Let me see what time I might come out today. Say about 2 o'clock.
About 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, brother.
All right.
I wish I get good news.
You mean about the coming? No, I won't get back the information from them yet.
You didn't get that?
No, not today. No, I'm dropping it off the schedule, and then maybe tomorrow or Wednesday, please God, I will get the response whether they agree with everything or what to change, what dates to change, or leave everything as it is.
So
and
tomorrow, please God, I will get that.
Yeah, between tomorrow or Wednesday. Once I get it back, I can give you the date when I should be in Carriacou.
Somebody give me only for me to call you, eh?
Yes.
Yeah, other people listening do.
No, they could call it, man. Anybody want to call me? All who then Carriacou could call me.
No,
and Pity Matnik too.
But sometimes they call and they have nothing to tell you.
Well, they go just sing.
Sing?
Yeah.
No, the only thing Carriacou people know is Parang anyway.
Well, they singing that too?
Nah, you know.
Yeah?
Well, Mr. Mills, we are totally out of time, so we will speak to you again. I'm absolutely sure of that.
Okay, I know it is. Well, you all have a nice day.
You as well, my brother, and take good care.
Love you all.
God bless you too.
All right, guys. So we are out of time this morning. Of course, as we say here every day, in whatever you do and whatever you say, be safe and be secure. We always want to be talking with you, but we don't ever want to be talking about you. Please do enjoy the remainder of your day and stay tuned for the National Report. Have a wonderful day, guys.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new National Party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405.
government through the Ministry of Education to assist family who lost their house to a fire on Tuesday. We'll have the details to this story and more in the National Report. Welcome back. With the details to the news for Wednesday, January 13th, 2021, I am Sherry-Ann Noel. A family of 4 is trying to pick up the pieces after their home in Busheshu Gardens was destroyed by fire on Tuesday night. When GIS visited the family on Wednesday, members of the RGPF's fire department were conducting investigations. Despite having received the call of the devastating news while on their way home, homeowner Martin Alexander managed to maintain a positive outlook.
We got a second call from another neighbor telling us that the house is on fire, and by the time we came, they already called the fire brigade. Nothing could have been done to save the house or anything like that. So, the fire truck came, they did the best they could, but the house was already engulfed in flames.
Alexander, who is a teacher at the Grenada Boys Secondary School and father of 2 school-aged children, says friends and family are providing accommodation and support at this time. However, his main focus is ensuring his children are organized for school.
Right now, the focus now is on getting my kids' stuff, their school books, their uniform and so forth back. Afterwards, we'll look at concentrating on what's going on with the house. We are insured, of course. Our insurer was here last night. She assured us that they would come and evaluate and so forth. Everything inside here can be replaced. We're looking at rebounding and probably building back and building better. My son is 10 years, my daughter is 15. My son attends St. Mary's Junior School. He is in grade 5. My daughter attends high school. She's in Form 4.
Thank you. If someone would like to reach out to you to lend support, a number or so?
Anybody wanting to assist can call me at 534-9640, or you can call me on my job, which is GBSS.
Education Minister Honorable Emmeline Pear also reached out to the Alexander family on Wednesday and pledged government support through the Ministry of Education. She told the GIS via a telephone interview that she understands the situation that the Alexander family has been thrown into, but at the same time she's very thankful that no lives were lost.
I spoke to Mr. Alexander this morning, and I had to commend him on how positive he was, about the entire situation, meaning that it has not allowed him to go into the negative mode. And, and I really, really want to commend him that he's looking at the situation from a positive point of view. And that is how to build back better and to be of great support to his family. That being said, I did offer to him that the ministry would provide whatever support that is needed at this time to help him through this situation, and we would continue to be in communication with him and his family. And again, my heart goes out to him, and in any way, both personally and professionally, that I can help, I stand ready to do that.
Martin also expressed gratitude to all those who have reached out to his family in their time of difficulty. Moving ahead, Health Minister Honorable Nicholas Steele says public consultations will be held before a final decision is made on which COVID-19 vaccine Grenada will purchase. The COVID-19 vaccine has been a topic of interest and discussion of late, as concerns are being raised on whether or not the vaccine is healthy or safe. Minister Steele told members of the media on Tuesday that no decision has been made on the vaccine for Grenada or the region. He says more knowledge has to be shared with the public to allay fears and suspicion currently being spread on social media.
I know that there are many people who have a certain level of anxiety with respect to this particular vaccine, which would have been many other people. Most of them would not have had or don't have that level of anxiety or so for all of the other vaccines, polio vaccine, rubella vaccine, mumps vaccine, all of the others that are implemented as part of our national policy here in Grenada. Even individuals who annually would take the flu vaccine or who would take hepatitis vaccine, etc. So We recognize that, and we know that this discussion has to be had, and we have started having that discussion in small circles, but a public discussion has to be had.
He says Grenada now has the ability to store the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, which is among 3 vaccines so far approved by the World Health Organization.
We do have now confirmed ability to store said vaccine here in Grenada, as opposed to last week. We are able to store that vaccine, should that be the vaccine that as a CARICOM or as an individual country or as OECS we decide to go with. We are also in communication with Moderna, which is another vaccine that has received approval in the US, and also with AstraZeneca, which is a vaccine that has received approval in the UK and other European countries with respect to Pfizer, Moderna, and AstraZeneca. Those are the only 3 at this point in time, because those are the only 3 that have either received approval from WHO or are well on the way in the process of, so that it is safe and prudent for us to have discussions with these manufacturers, so that if and when there is that WHO PAHO approval, we are ready there to pull the order out and have it shipped.
This is the National Report. The news will continue after the break.
Protect yourself and our community from COVID-19. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. If soap and water are not available, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with at least 70% alcohol. Use a tissue when blowing your nose, sneezing, or coughing. Immediately discard the tissue properly and wash or sanitize your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Let's do our part to ensure that each and every Grenadian remains healthy. To stay up to date, visit the Government of Grenada's webpage or the Ministry of Health's Facebook page. For more information, contact the Ministry of Health's hotline by calling 53-VIRUS. This has been a public service announcement brought to you by the Ministry of Health.
Welcome back. The new laboratory, which is part of the second phase of the General Hospital, will be open to the public from the middle of February. Acting Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Hospital Services, Hannah Julian St. Paul, said staff and records from all the old lab will be transferred to the new facility. Prior to touring the facility on Wednesday, she told GIS the intention is to equip the lab for certification in accordance with the international health standards.
The second floor is catered for our new lab, and we are in the process of transiting from the old lab over into the new space, and we are looking at the middle of February for us to be moving over fully and for persons to be able to be accessing service at that new facility. At that new facility, you would, on your tour, you would see that we have all brand new equipment there. They are upgraded, top of the line, because right now we are going to be starting to look at certification for our lab, so that the equipment is in keeping with that.
Medical Director Dr. Taisha Donald is happy that healthcare in 2021 is off to a positive start. She is optimistic that the equipment will enhance the delivery of healthcare and services to Grenadians. Dr. Donald highlighted some of the equipment that will be used at the new facility, which includes nebulizers, portable X-ray units, new CT scanner, and carts.
The first thing we got was some new ICU beds. So we got some new ICU beds, like a total of 6 beds. We have procured new operating theater lights, because we've had, since the new building has been commissioned, it's been the same lights we've been using since. And now we're really happy that we've procured some new operating theater lights, which are already purchased. So it's just awaiting arrival, and we're really happy about that. We did a lot of work with the ophthalmology unit. So this year, we're in 2021. So last year, the ophthalmology unit, they improved significantly in that they benefited quite a bit from some of the new equipment that was procured, including what we call A scans and B scans. They got new slit lamps, they got keratometers. So their department has upgraded, which means that they can now offer more services to their population. So with all the new equipment, it helps to improve services that we offer.
PS St. Paul gave the assurance that the equipment will be serviced regularly.
All of our equipment has come with a service contract. We have realized over the years that that was one of our weaknesses, that we was purchasing equipment and we had no routine servicing of them. So we have learned, and all of our equipment that we are purchasing going forward that needs to be serviced have a service contract, as well as we have our own biomedical team on compound that service our equipment from time to time, and if they can't, whatever they cannot do within their capacity or capability, we source expert help.
And finally, in the news, the Happy Hill Brizan Pre-Primary School and the Paradise Pre-Primary School, constructed under the 9th Basic Need Trust Fund, is set to be handed over to the Ministry of Education in the coming week. The Paradise Pre-Primary School was constructed at a cost of 1.7 million EC dollars, and the Happy Hill Brizan Pre-Primary School was constructed at a cost of 1.8 million EC dollars. GIS visited both locations on Wednesday and met workmen on the job sites cleaning and adding finishing touches to the structures. Via the telephone, Education Minister Honorable Emmeline Pear told the GIS that she is very pleased that the structures will be handed over soon and looks forward in particular to the merging of the Happy Hill and Brizan pre-primary schools at a more conducive learning environment.
I highly commend all the persons involved for the level of maturity, for looking at the bigger picture and the kind of cooperation that they gave to the Ministry of Education that we have gotten thus far. We believe that in a new environment, new facilities, new resources, that students and teachers will be far better off, and we will continue to provide all the necessary support to this new school as we attempt to give every child an opportunity to succeed. And again, I have to say this, I am so impressed thus far with the level of cooperation support that we have received from all of those involved in this process.
With the merger of the two institutions, the Education Minister says the right procedures will be followed if there is need to have a principal, since at present the institutions are led by what is known as a teacher in charge based on student numbers.
The situation would be determined by the guidelines for installation of a principal, and once the school meets the condition for that, we are going to follow the necessary guidelines. But in the meantime, we have been working with those involved, and as I said before, I am just amazed and impressed with the level of understanding, the level of cooperation, the willingness to put the children first, as opposed to all of those other things, titles and positions and who is in charge and who is not in charge. But we will continue to look at the situation and do the best we can in that regard as to whether we have a principal or teacher in charge.
The Paradise Pre-Primary School, she says, is a project that has been on the books for many years. However, finances has always been an issue. To see the project come to completion is really a humbling feeling for all involved.
Moving to this new location, I believe will principal and head teacher and students and family members, everybody involved, would breathe a sigh of relief, particularly when we have bad weather. For those who do not know where that school is currently located, we can say on the river's bank in Paradise. And so this is very important for us in the Ministry of Education, a safer location where students can be accommodated and all involved can continue, with a peace of mind to continue to provide for the children of this community and other communities who would access this facility.
Contracts for both projects were awarded to Hanover Construction Company Limited, who are specialized in civil engineering, both infrastructural and building works. And with that story, come to the end of the National Report for Wednesday, January 13th, 2021. On behalf of the entire news and production team, I am Sherry and Noel, thanking you for viewing.